Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're delving into a harrowing chapter of aviation history, a story of tragedy, survival, and critical lessons learned. On January 30th, 1974, Pan Am Flight 806, a Boeing 707 named Clipper Radiant, was on its final approach to Pago International Airport in American Samoa. What should have been a routine landing turned into a disaster that would forever mark the lives of those on board and the community that rushed to their aid. The flight originated in Auckland, New Zealand, carrying 86 passengers and a crew of 10. The journey across the South Pacific had been uneventful. As the aircraft began its descent into Pago, the weather was far from ideal. The tropical night was dark, and heavy rain lashed the island, stirred up by volatile weather systems common in the region. The crew was navigating through these challenging conditions, relying on their instruments and experience to guide them safely to the runway. On the ground, families and friends waited, completely unaware of the impending catastrophe. The approach to Pago's runway 5 was notoriously tricky, even in clear weather. Surrounded by hilly terrain, it demanded a precise and stable descent. On this particular night, the crew of Flight 806 was contending not only with rain and darkness, but also with treacherous wind shear. Wind shear is a sudden, drastic change in wind speed or direction over a short distance, and it's one of the most dangerous phenomena a pilot can encounter during landing or takeoff. As the Boeing 707 descended through the turbulent air, the pilots fought to maintain control, their instruments likely showing fluctuating airspeed and descent rates. In the final moments of the approach, just over a mile from the runway, the aircraft encountered a powerful downdraft. The pilots, battling the sudden loss of altitude, applied full power in a desperate attempt to arrest the descent and climb away. But it was too late. The plane's sink rate was too great to overcome. At 11:41 p.m. local time, Pan Am Flight 806 slammed into the dense, jungle-covered terrain of the hillside. The impact was catastrophic. The aircraft disintegrated, shearing through thick trees and scattering wreckage over a wide area. A massive fireball erupted, illuminating the dark, rainy night and signaling the terrible tragedy to the stunned onlookers at the airport. The crash site was a scene of utter devastation. The force of the impact and the ensuing fire were horrific. Yet, amidst this chaos, miracles of survival occurred. Of the 96 people on board, an astonishing 10 initially survived the crash itself. These survivors found themselves in a terrifying and disorienting environment. A dark, burning jungle, slick with rain and jet fuel. Their fight for life had only just begun. The first responders were the local villagers of Pago. Hearing the deafening crash and seeing the fiery glow on the hill, they didn't hesitate. They organized themselves and plunged into the treacherous jungle, guided only by the light of the flames, to search for survivors. The rescue effort was incredibly difficult. The terrain was steep and slippery, covered in dense vegetation that hid the wreckage and the victims. The ongoing fire and the risk of further explosions made the environment extremely hazardous. Yet, the local Samoans, with their intimate knowledge of the land, navigated the dangerous landscape with courage and determination. They were the first to reach the survivors, offering comfort, providing initial aid, and carrying the injured out of the jungle on makeshift stretchers. Their heroic and selfless actions in the immediate aftermath were instrumental in saving lives. Official emergency crews soon joined the effort, but the conditions remained a formidable challenge. The heavy rain continued to fall, hampering the rescue and firefighting operations. It took hours to bring the blaze under control and to locate all the victims. For the survivors, the ordeal was far from over. They had sustained severe injuries, including burns and fractures, and the psychological trauma was immense. They were transported to the local hospital, where medical staff worked tirelessly to treat them. Sadly, despite the heroic rescue and dedicated medical care, 6 of the initial 10 survivors would later succumb to their injuries, bringing the final death toll to 91. Only 4 people ultimately survived the disaster. In the wake of the tragedy, the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, launched a comprehensive investigation to determine the cause of the crash. Investigators meticulously examined the wreckage, analyzed the flight data and cockpit voice recorders, and interviewed the surviving crew members and witnesses. The black boxes were crucial. The cockpit voice recorder captured the crew's struggle against the elements, their call-outs of fluctuating airspeeds, and their final urgent attempts to regain control. The flight data recorder provided a second-by-second account of the aircraft's altitude, speed, and heading. The NTSB's final report identified the probable cause as the aircraft's encounter with destabilizing wind shear during the final approach. This encounter led to a high sink rate that the crew was unable to arrest before impacting the ground. The report highlighted the pilots' delayed recognition of the severity of the wind shear and their late application of corrective action. However, it also emphasized the limited information available to pilots at the time regarding the detection and recovery from such microbursts. The technology and training for dealing with wind shear were still in their early stages. The crash of Pan Am Flight 806 served as a tragic but vital catalyst for change in the aviation industry. It was one of several key accidents in the 1970s and 80s that underscored the critical danger of wind shear. These events spurred massive investment in research and development. The result was the creation of advanced onboard wind shear detection and alert systems, which are now standard on all modern airliners. These systems provide pilots with crucial early warnings, giving them the time needed to execute a go-around and avoid a potential disaster. Furthermore, pilot training programs were completely overhauled, with a new emphasis on recognizing wind shear conditions and practicing proven recovery techniques in advanced flight simulators. Today, the legacy of Flight 806 is one of improved safety. The lessons learned from this tragedy have been integrated into the very fabric of modern aviation, making air travel significantly safer for millions of people around the world. The lives lost in the jungles of Pago were not in vain. They contributed to a revolution in how the industry understands and mitigates the risks of severe weather. It also stands as a powerful testament to the bravery and humanity of the people of Pago, who ran towards danger to help strangers in their darkest hour. Their heroism remains an unforgettable part of this somber story. Thank you for joining us today as we remember the victims, survivors, and heroes of Pan Am Flight 806. If you found this account meaningful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more stories from aviation history. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.